Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Hey Laura, thank you so much for having me.
I'm like fangirling because I've been watching Catherine's YouTube videos for a couple months now, and I listen to her videos every day to guide my life. And I slid into her DMs being like, would you like to be on the podcast? And you said yes. So I'm like so excited.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much, Laura, and I'm glad you like the videos.
I love them because I'm an Aries sun. I can only handle like little bit at a time. I don't like the long ass videos, so I appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, Aries. That explains it. Yeah, just like quick and to the get to the point, get to the point. And I love that you're in Aries because I'm a Libra, and so I just tend to
I was just gonna
attract
say, I was just
I
gonna say, you have like Libra vibes with Taurus somewhere.
yes, it's big Venus energy, but yeah, I tend to attract Aries people and I just love Aries energy so much.
I love this makes so much sense. I was actually going to try to guess yours because I feel a lot of Venusian, but airy vibes, justice, balance, harmony. And maybe that's why I felt attracted to your energies here.
Yeah, maybe I should share my SMR, my sun moon rising. I'm a Libra sun, I'm a Scorpio moon, and I'm a Cancer rising. So I'm a lot of water and a lot of air.
Mm,
Just enough fire and earth though.
love that. So I'm a Aries sun, Aqua moon, and Sag rising.
Oh, that is such a fun combination. That's like it's pretty similar to my husband. So obviously we're gonna vibe well here.
The vibe well. Well, please tell everybody like a little shot of your like origin story. How did I know you got into astrology pretty young and you just like absorbed it and ran with it?
I did. I got into astrology pretty young. I just stumbled across the witchy Wiccan book section in the bookstore and I was hooked. I didn't deep dive into astrology until I moved to New York. Once I moved to New York around 2009, or no, it was 2007 I moved there. It was like 2009 though that I went deep. Like I had this Kundalini awakening and it just shook my reality and I just went full in to studying astrology. It was around then that I realized that you could have a career and you could go as deep as I am now, and even deeper with astrology. And I just got obsessed and I've just been obsessed ever since. But yeah, a little bit about that time in my life. I was really into stargazing and I was also really interested in finding a UFO. I was so like I would go out on my rooftop every night in Brooklyn just like hoping to see a UFO. Um and so I just got really into studying the stars at that point in time too. And eventually, I did see a UFO. I saw a fleet of UFOs in the middle of Prospect Park in the middle of the day.
The
It was
day?
it was in the day. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was just like mind blowing to me. And it just had me questioning um it had me questioning in a much different way than I did before about what does it mean to be a human on this planet? Like, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What is the meaning of suffering? And I had studied so much like Eastern philosophy, um, around, why are we here? And I was so interested in finding the answers. And what I've come to realize is that I think there's many paths up the mountain and you can learn something from everyone. You can learn something from every culture. And I'm just interested. I'm just here for all of it. And but yeah, seeing the UFO though, it just like made me realize like, maybe this life on earth, like what is astrology like on other planets and what are the um quote unquote rules on other planets? What is life like? What's it like to be another species? And so yeah, it kind of just contextualized for me that our birth chart is our roadmap. Our birth chart is our blueprint for this lifetime.
Mhm.
And when you understand that everyone is working with a different roadmap, it really enhances your capacity for compassion for people, understanding that we're not all meant to have the same experience in this lifetime.
Yeah. Wait, it's so interesting that you said that because I have seen UFOs growing up too, but only at nighttime. Like I've seen the spaceships and I would always tell people, and then nobody believed me because a lot of people don't believe it until they see it. But
Yeah,
I've always known. Obviously, I have like very galactic energies in my chart, but it's so interesting that you also saw them in New York because I feel like there's a hub here.
there is. There is. I don't know what it is about New York. When I was living there, I know you still live there, Laura, but I know everyone I was hanging out with, they're like, New York is a crystal. And
Mhm.
it's like, New York is a crystal and the UFOs are attracted here. And, there's Montauk out on New Island or Long Island. And yeah, it is a hot spot for UFO activity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but so right now you live in Cleveland, and you practice astrology there.
I do. Yes, I'm an astrologer based out of Cleveland, which is where I'm originally from. If you couldn't tell by my Midwestern accent. And yeah, I live here with my husband. I have a 15-month-old daughter. And yeah, it's life is good. Life is good. I'm just doing I mostly do readings for people. I write and I teach astrology as well.
Yes. And I love your grounded approach to astrology, which is what a lot of people say in the comments, and I'm sure that you get a lot. It's just also you break it down in such an easy and digestible way, especially for beginners as myself. I'm a baby astrologer, so I really appreciate your approach.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I do get that feedback a lot, which is why I have started teaching and something I love very much. But yeah, I think astrology, you can get so cosmic with it, and we can talk about soul purpose and
Mhm.
past lives, but I just love that it is such a practical tool for making sense of our life.
Mhm. And you are what kind of astrologer? Like tropical, Western?
Yeah, so I use the tropical zodiac and I practice Western astrology.
Okay, cool. Well, shall we get into September? And I can't believe I'm even saying that. It's September.
I
We're in the
know.
last quarter.
It is. Yes, I'm ready. Let's talk about September.
Let's do it.
Okay, the first, so the month of September begins, we're in Virgo season. Virgo season is the time of year where we're focused on organization. It's a mutable earth sign. So I really think so it's about flexibility also. Um, Virgo season is a time when, and this is going to last for most of the month. So it's important we kind of lay the foundation here. So Virgo season is a time where we might be really into organization. We might feel like we're a little bit busier than normal. Virgo season, we like to be busy, especially trying to like take advantage of the end of the summer. Virgo season is a time when we are shifting from summer into fall. So we're going to have a little bit of both. We're going to be noticing that some days are hot and some days are a little bit chillier. Virgo season is best for taking advantage of organization and practices where we're really working on ourselves. Virgo is also known as the hermit.
Mhm.
So we're starting to go into hermit mode. We're starting to prepare for the fall season. And I love Virgo. We're thinking about Virgo as like back to school season,
Mhm.
where we're trying to just get everything clean. We're trying to get everything organized. I know I swept my driveway today. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be Virgo season here really soon. Just like the cleaning, the fall cleaning, getting ready for fall cleaning. And yeah, so you may find that you're hyper into organization and things like that at this time. The month also begins with a balsamic moon. So the beginning of September is going to feel a little bit more inward, a little bit lower energy. The balsamic moon period is the period right before the new moon. So we're going inward, we're becoming a little bit more reflective. If you have some sort of spiritual practice, this can be a time where you're more drawn to go inward and do your spiritual practice on an inner and more quiet, reflective level. Because around the full moon, we can do spiritual practices that are more active and engaging with other people. But the balsamic moon is a lot more inward. So that's kind of the preface for the month. But our first major aspect that we get to is on the 2nd. So September 2nd, we have Mars opposite Neptune. Now, Mars is in Virgo. We have, at this point in time, we have the sun, we have Mercury, we have Mars, all in the sign of Virgo, really emphasizing that sign. Mars in Virgo is extremely meticulous, very ritualistic. I find Virgo placements to be really strong in the charts of astrologers or witchy people. And yes, even Stevie Nicks has Mars in Virgo, our favorite witchy performer. So this is a good time to actually get into ritual, because as Mars in Virgo really wants to be organized and have everything nice and orderly, having everything running like a well-oiled machine, Mars in Virgo gets a little bit of tunnel vision, gets really focused on one little task, can sometimes lose sight of the big picture. So we might feel like we have a good flow going, but with this opposition to Neptune, it's going to kind of scatter our focus a little bit. It's going to kind of diffuse the focus a little bit. So some people might find this aspect a little frustrating because you were really focused, you had everything in order, and now your card tower is in pieces on the ground. So the nice thing about this, though, is that Neptune opens us up to other realms of possibility. It's going to expand the imagination of this otherwise really focused Mars and really meticulous and detailed Mars. It's going to say, well, what if you added this color, or what if you you added too much of this ingredient into your dish. Well, what if you turned it into this other thing? Virgo is a mutable sign, so we have to remain flexible. So Neptune is inviting our really focused, kind of tunnel vision Mars to open up to other possibilities, to open up to magic, to open up to wonderment. Like, it's okay to get lost. This is going to be happening on a long weekend, of course, or leading up to a long weekend, which many people will have like a long weekend available to them. And so this is an adventure aspect. So you want to start your vacation early if you're able to work on the road, like many of us are able to nowadays. This is an invitation to get lost, to get elevated, and to seek magic and to seek adventure. You're not going to be as satisfied with regular everyday life. Like, that to-do list is going to be thwarted, and we should just be open and go along with it.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna get a lift. We're gonna get a lift off at the beginning of the month. And it's also great because if you do have Virgo placements, or even just regardless, we're all feeling this Virgo energy. Virgo is also the artisan, the craftsperson, the hermit. And so if there is something creative that we're tending to, Neptune is going to really bring some inspiration to that process. So that will be cool. The only caution with this aspect is that sometimes with Neptune, it's easy to get too enamored by that thing over there, the thing that I don't have, the thing that isn't right in front of me. And so that's the other caution, is to remember that the magic is right in front of you and it's available to you here. It doesn't have to be over there. But if over there means a road trip or getting lost in the woods, then that should be a good time.
Mhm. Got it. I keep hearing that TikTok song, Into the Thick of It, Into the Thick of It.
Oh,
Are you on TikTok?
no, no. But it's in the peripheral.
You've
Like,
probably heard of it on Instagram. Yeah, like I don't even know where that song came from, but I always think of like getting lost in the woods with that song.
then that song is going to be our theme for the kickoff of September.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to September 3rd, we still have Venus in Libra. Venus in Libra is all about connections and relationships and beauty. And Venus is going to conjoin with Vesta. Vesta can often correspond with the home and the hearth. So putting love and energy into the home. So if you're not wandering into the woods and you're still at home, then you'll want to plug into this aspect, because Venus in Libra wants us to lend more of an aesthetic eye and create more beauty wherever we go, create beauty in dialogue with other people. But Venus in Libra is also the eye of a designer. So lining up with Vesta in Libra might help us put a little bit of an artistic flair in the house. I know I've been thinking about moving my desk into the guest room, because my desk in my office is slowly becoming a playroom. So I'm like, maybe that'll be a good day to do that. But Vesta is also an asteroid that corresponds with sacred sexuality. So this might be a really excellent time to create space for intimacy and partnerships and see what ignites, because Vesta is the hearth. So see what ignites, whether it's intellectually or physically or both. This could be a really beautiful aspect to plug into. Moving on to September 4th, we've got Mercury trine Saturn. I am so excited about these air trines to Saturn and Aquarius, because we've got Saturn in its domicile in Aquarius, bringing us things like concentration, focus, attention, something that is harder to come by in today's world of scrolling. Saturn in Aquarius is like, read a book, which I think a lot of people have been like. Saturn entered Aquarius around quarantine, right when like quarantine happened. And I do think that more people started making time
Yes.
for that kind of focused, like, learning and mental expansion. So this is great because Mercury is also in Libra. Mercury has a good time in Libra because Mercury in Libra can be fun, it can be flirty, it's able to do Mercury things like be curious and learn and engage with other people. And Mercury in Libra is also really sweet. So we're having like more conscientious dialogue with other people with an awareness of how our words impact other people. And Mercury in Libra is all about the ability to negotiate and the ability to see where someone else is coming from. But Mercury in Libra can also be indecisive. So if you're feeling unsure about something, if you're feeling kind of wishy-washy on something, you're like, I just need to decide and make it the right decision. This trine to Saturn on the 4th can help clarify that decision and also help you to pick something and make it the right decision. It can also add a little bit of discernment, and it can also, I mean, it's just really great for conversation and just being able to understand where someone else is coming from. So I'm really looking forward to that. If
Which
there's
is,
any, oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like all the things you're saying is going to be very helpful for what we're going through right now in the collective.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Like it's so polarized right now. And these Venusian, these Libran aspects are here to help. They're here to help us try to understand each other. Like it's tough waters for everyone. No one has it completely figured out. No one is completely like good right now. So trying to understand where other people are coming from, this Mercury trine Saturn is going to be really helpful for that
Mhm.
and for making decisions. So moving on, we're going to go into, and this is all leading up to the new moon. So we have a new moon coming up on the 6th,
Mhm.
but we have one more important aspect to talk about here. That's going to be Venus's square to Pluto. And this is always an interesting one. This is always a more complex transit, especially because Venus in Libra is trying to do all the best things for us in terms of our relationships and cultivating beauty and like I said, like conscientiousness for others and really being able to engage in heart-centered and conscientious dialogue. But now Venus is going to come into a square with Pluto, and this is going to be the most challenging aspect that Venus in Libra makes. This aspect may highlight the complexities of appeasement. Venus in Libra is trying to keep the peace.
Mhm.
So what happens when attempts to create the peace and meet people in the middle are thwarted? Pluto might uproot a lot of hidden pain or fear, because neutrality can be just as dangerous as confrontation.
Mhm.
So that might be another theme coming in. Venus in a square to Pluto can highlight complexities in relationships. It can highlight jealousy. What it really is an opportunity for, though, is Pluto takes us to the underworld where
Mhm.
we keep everything hidden. And I find that these aspects are really amazing because it can actually, even though they can come off as initially difficult, um, Venus Pluto aspects are really beautiful for intimacy because what it can do is it can bring our fears or our whether it's within the realm of partnership or just personally into the relationship, it can kind of bring those energies to the table so that you can have more provoking and intimate dialogue around things that are going on for you personally. You can bring that into dialogue with your partner or with your friends, even, and it can actually create more intimacy and understanding.
Mhm.
And I just find it so beautiful because I think the best way to take advantage of this aspect, especially if it's because we're leading up to a new moon. So we're getting rid of, like, we're trying to process and make peace with, and we're still in this reflective space before this new moon comes in. So really the best way to take advantage of Venus square Pluto is to allow yourself to be vulnerable. Pluto really wants to have a lot of control. So this Venus square Pluto business is going to be, it may reflect as us subconsciously trying to have more control over a situation. We know relationships are complex. We don't have control over the other person. We can't control when they're going to agree with us or when they're going to respond to us emotionally in a way that doesn't wasn't what we desired or craved. So it's complex in general. So the Pluto really invites us to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and to be able to reveal the things that are really going on, to process with someone verbally, because Venus in Libra is an air sign. So it's an opportunity for us to process verbally. It's like talk therapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is really a challenging thing.
Oh, it is. It really is.
I'm just wondering because I forget when it was, maybe when Venus was in Virgo, it was creating, I think, a T squared to Pluto and Uranus. Is this a continuation of that story or? like just different.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so when Venus was in Leo, there was the T square with Saturn and Uranus. Is that the one?
Oh, okay. Yes. I'm getting them mixed up now.
That's okay. Yeah, actually, later in the month, Venus is going to activate that square again.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be able to talk about that. We'll be able to talk about that. Yeah, this Venus square Pluto is actually like a little bit of a prequel to what it's gonna feel like when Venus enters Scorpio later in the month. It's like gets a little bit more intense.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely be able to revisit that. I'm glad you brought that up. So now we're getting into the new moon on September 6th. We have a new moon. It's at 14 degrees, 38 minutes of Virgo. This is actually going to activate that Saturn Uranus square because this new moon is in an exact trine to Uranus, which is today, as we're recording this,
Hmm.
Uranus is stationing retrograde.
Hmm.
So it will be activating it. So your intuition was on point, Laura. Yeah, this new moon is going to activate the Saturn Uranus square by trine. So this is helpful. So Uranus, it's about like awakening, and it's a bolt of lightning here to kind of rattle us into action. It's like an illumination that also provokes action. Uranus invites us to integrate radical change, radical paradigm shifts into our life and into specifically in this square to Saturn within the framework of our life. So we're working with that energy. Now, this is a trine. So this is like easy. It's like, okay, this is a change that actually is easily accessible to me. I can just shift my awareness, I can shift my perspective and get the kind of freedom or liberation I am craving in this area of my life. Now, you're going to want to look at where Virgo is in your chart because the new moon is all about renewal. So wherever we have Virgo in our chart, and if you don't know, you can join me on Patreon on my moonrise tier. I go in for the new moon every month for folks, and I go through for each sign of the zodiac. And so you can listen for your rising sign and your sun sign. But if you do know where Virgo is in your chart, then that is where we are getting this new moon. Um, new moons, they're not meant to be life changing, right? Like we're not meant to do a complete and total overhaul unless it's activating something much larger going on in your chart. But it's a sense of it's a sense of renewal. It's a sense of refocusing our intentions and our relationship and our alignment with that part of our chart. Having both the sun and the moon, our life-giving luminaries, occupying that part of our chart, it's really important for illuminating and shedding light on, but also renewal. So the Virgo new moon may be highlighting something that we would like to work on, something that we would like to improve, something that we would like to understand better, something that is calling for innovation because it's a mutable earth sign. So something that is calling for a grounded yet innovative approach to something. It's calling for us to be more methodical. It might also be calling us into hermit mode of some kind, especially with the world kind of going the way that it is right now, just kind of going back into preparation for fall, like getting into projects. Virgo new moon may be some kind of project or organization or something that we're working to improve ourselves, but in this radical way, in this illuminating way that Uranus is inviting us to do. So something that Uranus in Taurus is really highlighting for us collectively is it's bringing significant changes to our collective relationship with finance. We're seeing cryptocurrencies gain more and more traction and momentum and attention. We're also seeing a rise in herbalism being practiced. So Uranus being the awakener, quite literally waking up Taurus, our most yin earth sign. It's just like I view it as Gaia, as Mother Earth reclaiming herself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and just like maybe being able to do something, with Virgo being ruled by Mercury and literally working with our hands, getting our hands in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
I know I just discovered a new compost drop off around the corner from my house that I want to sign up for. So I'm probably going to do that today because Uranus is stationing today. But this Virgo new moon might call us to heed the Earth's call on some level and to just do something, to
Mm-hmm.
just do something.
Everybody thinks of Gaia and Mother Earth to be so grounding, but she can also be quite nasty, you know?
Oh yeah, the Earth is powerful.
Yeah. I feel like she
Yeah.
is definitely letting us know.
Yes, that's the other thing is like all the strange weather, or I shouldn't say strange. I mean, I should say extreme, like extreme.
Volatile.
Yes, it's volatile.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's like she doesn't feel good.
Yeah, which I feel is the Uranus and Taurus. It's like that lightning, like shaking us all up.
Agitation.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like I think of Uranus too as if you like shake up a kombucha, like it's gonna explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that agitation to release built up pressure.
Hmm.
And Uranus can also be supremely creative. It's like a spark of genius
Hmm.
where it really does encourage us to live in the now, to act in the now, and to not wait. Like there's a sense of urgency there. But this is a trine, so it's positive. It's reinforcing somehow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this new moon here, Laura.
Hmm.
The new moon is going to be ruled by Mercury. We know that Mercury is separating from that lovely trine with Saturn, so it's really grounded and has a way to um, kind of find organized solutions through chaos. So we're able to be our own problem solvers, whatever is going on here. Virgo's all about coming up with an idea to innovate, to make it work better, to make it run smoother. Um, but yeah, but now we have Mercury coming into this opposition with Chiron. So that one is actually going to be exact on the 8th of September, but we're going to start to feel it now at the new moon because the new moon is ruled by that Mercury in Libra opposite Chiron. And this is a really, really important alignment to talk about because as Mercury opposes Chiron, now Mercury is entering its shadow, its retrograde shadow. When Mercury finishes, Mercury's going to station retrograde at the end of the month on the 27th. And when Mercury completes its retrograde, it will be stationing direct in October in this opposition again to Chiron. So this is an aspect that we're going to be working with
Hmm.
in a distinctive way. So um, any activation of Chiron is really going to highlight our healing process. And with Mercury being in the sign of Libra, there may be some relationship themes, there may be themes of misunderstandings going on. Chiron is all about the process of healing. So I find that when Chiron gets activated in general, it might just bring up anyone's natal Chiron, whatever is going on. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Chiron, I really correlate Chiron to be our healing process. There are things in this lifetime that we carry with us, and they continue to teach us, they continue to offer us wisdom, because there are certain wounds that never fully close. There are certain wounds that we are constantly revisiting, and they're constantly offering us new wisdoms and perspectives. And that's our Chiron. So your Chiron may come up around this new moon, and the Virgo essence of it is going to say, well, how do I break free? How do I move this energy? How do I do something about it? What can I do? I can't do everything to heal. I can't make it exactly how it was, but what can I do in the now? What can I do to remove some of this pressure? So yeah, Chiron is really our humanness. Chiron is really our humanness. But yeah, we're trying to see both sides of the story. We're trying to also be honest, because Chiron is an Aries. So there's a little bit of that going on as well. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear my baby cry.
No, I was gonna ask, do you want to go check on your baby?
No, my husband is with her. It's fine. Getting to bedtime.
At first I thought it was a cat, but then I was like, oh, it's her baby. She wants her mama.
I know. Yeah, it's okay. She'll get some snacks and she'll be okay. Thank you.
Anytime you want to stop to go, yeah, we could do it.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Laura.
I do love Chiron's story. If anybody wants to understand the mythology of Chiron, Chiron actually became like a really prominent healer, almost like that Rumi quote, "Where the wound, the light enters."
Yeah.
And he became Sagittarius, right?
Yeah, I believe that yeah, I think so actually. I think that there is a correspondence with Chiron getting the constellation, and yeah, I think that is the Sagittarius. I kind of forget right now, but yeah, you're probably right. I don't know of any other centaur constellations. So yeah, well, that's the other part of it, is kind of leaning into the thing that makes you different. The thing that makes you different might initially feel like a burden, but it's also what makes you special. It's also what gives you a unique story to tell. And that's what Chiron had to do. Chiron had to lean into that and became this prolific teacher, incredibly wise across all fronts: alchemy, herbalism, archery. He trained warriors. He was an astrologer, like just amazing.
I love
Amazing.
Chiron's story. And also, isn't Chiron between Saturn and Uranus? So I find him to be like the bridge between our borders, like our restrictions, and like what awakens us, like what sets us free.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm really into Chiron.
Yes, I love Chiron too. Well, we get opportunities to work with Chiron this month, because as the planets go through Libra, they're going to be opposing Chiron, activating Chiron. So we will be working with our process this month. So yeah, I guess we'll revisit the Mercury retrograde when we get, so you'll have to stick around. So yeah, now we're in new moon territory. And the next major aspect that we have is going to be Venus in Scorpio. So Venus enters Scorpio on the 10th. This is kind of great, because when thinking about the essential dignity scheme, we all love Venus in Libra, but Venus in Libra really keeps it on the surface. Really tends to keep it on the surface. Now we do that deep intertwining thing when Venus enters Scorpio. It's like cuffing season. It's like we want to lock something down to keep us warm through the winter. and it's like, if you think about archetypally, like Venus and Libra is like the courting. We're getting to know each other, we're flirty. We don't want to tell you all my deepest, darkest secrets. But once Venus gets into Scorpio, it's like, I want to make sure that you're going to love me no matter what. So it gets a little more intense. Venus in Scorpio is extremely loyal, but Venus in Scorpio wants to make sure
Mhm.
that, will you still love me if, that Lana Del Rey song.
Mhm.
Um, but Venus in Scorpio is extremely magnetic. It's seeking profound connection. It's like this envelopment that can happen. It's this all or nothing concept that happens when planets enter Scorpio. It's like we are either like all into each other or we're not. I actually really like Venus in Scorpio, speaking as someone who's been in a long a committed relationship for a long time. I really like Venus in Scorpio because it's like I feel like Venus in Virgo, we're busy doing our own thing. And then Venus in Libra, we're like mostly like socializing. But then Venus in Scorpio, we really rekindle that. So if you're feeling similarly, you can look forward to Venus in Scorpio because it's a time to really plug in
Mhm.
with your partner. Like Venus in Virgo and in Libra, they crave a little more space. They crave a little more space. Gotta play the field. Gotta work the room. But Venus in Scorpio is that like intense eye gaze, like 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 Kama Sutra. Like it's like yeah, it's really an intense emotional and psychic connection.
Mhm.
So yeah, and Venus in Scorpio is less focus on dialogue. They're like, let's just get naked is what Venus in Scorpio wants to do.
I wanted to actually ask, is it also like hidden relationships?
I think it can highlight the hidden
Mhm.
in relationships. Like it can bring, that's why I'm thinking like that square earlier in the month between Venus and Pluto can start to kind of bring stuff out. It can bring out the hidden because that's why Venus is actually in her detriment in Scorpio, is because Venus and Scorpio, all aside, coupled with all the nice things I just named, um, Venus in Scorpio is prone to suspicion, to jealousy, can be very possessive.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but it's because of that desire to be completely enmeshed and to be in this space of trust and commitment,
Mhm.
undying commitment. It's tantric when
Mhm.
Venus is in Scorpio.
Mhm. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and it's like also speaking to those who aren't in committed relationships at this time, or even like any kind of relationship. This is really great in like friendships, to really connect with the people who just understand you the most. Like, we have our friends who we can go out and have a good time with, but the Venus and Scorpio energy is like you connect with the people who you can talk about anything with,
Mhm.
you can trust with your life.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
Venus and Scorpio.
I like it.
So this is going to get really juicy actually, because now we have Venus and Mars' sign.
Mhm.
Scorpio is a Mars ruled sign. Um, it's going to get juicy on the 14th, a few days later, when Mars enters Libra, which is Venus's sign. So we have what's called a mutual reception
Mhm.
because we have two planets in each other's signs. Now, technically, you want to have an aspect between those planets, but we'll have the moon. The moon will be linking up Venus and Mars together as the month goes on. So that'll be really interesting because to have our relationship planets in signs where they aren't the most comfortable, I think that we may experience that to a degree in the world. Maybe not you and I personally, but we might see it in the world. And I think when we're entering a time when people are starting to be a little bit more cautious again about how they socialize, this configuration may reflect that a little bit of the discomfort, a little bit of the not knowing what to do or what makes sense or what what I'm doing, if that aligns with what they're doing. You know, it's a lot to navigate right now. So Mars is going to enter Libra. And what that's going to feel like is that is going to be Mars is our warrior planet. Mars is all about going out and getting stuff done. It's our motivation. Mars is we can normally count on Mars to be like our gasoline, like our gas pedal. But Mars is now in Libra sign. And a lot of people think that Taurus is the laziest sign. I will tell you, Libra is an inanimate object. Libra, very lazy. So,
Really?
oh, yes. I mean, Libra's a cardinal sign, so they can get stuff done, but oh man, that indecisive, it's just like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna do nothing kind of thing. So yeah, Mars and Libras can be a little bit more lazy. It's going to overthink. We're going to overthink our actions, what it is that we're meant to be doing. We might over conceptualize. We might overthink and miss the chance to strike. So that's the thing with Mars and Libra, is that we are more conscientious of how others will perceive, how others will respond to our choices and our motivations and our desires. So that is a nice thing, to be conscientious of others, but at the same time, Mars and Libra might slow down our attack button, and it just you want to be conscientious of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Mars is like our primal side, and entering into the sign of the air sign of Libra, we're just going to be a little bit more calculated in the way that we respond to our environment, the way that we respond to our world. And you know, sometimes we need to be gutsy, we need to be direct, we need to have some fight in us. But Mars in Libra is a little bit more appeasing. It's like Mars is our tool, Mars is our weapon. And in the sign of Libra, we're like fighting with pillows instead of
Feathers.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
I have Mars in Libra natally.
Oh yeah, how do you
Yeah.
experience
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I have other aspects in my chart where I feel like I'm not like that. I'm pretty decisive.
Aries?
Yes, Aries and like other aspects that I think bring out the more impulsiveness, but it's interesting because I have a stellium in Libra and I do find like my Saturn, my Pluto, and other things. And I do find sometimes that I take other people's needs way more into consideration than I would like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the case with the Libra stellium. Oh, so you have that, do you have Jupiter in Libra too?
I have Jupiter in Scorpio.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think thinking about Mars as like a weapon, we can also think about Mars as a tool.
Hmm.
So communication as a tool, language as a tool, being able to be a negotiator, being able to be the diplomat as a tool. But as you probably know, Laura, like yeah, it can sometimes get in the way of getting right to the point or saying exactly
Hmm.
um, what you want to say because there's a conscientiousness of others.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny.
It's
I'm just kidding.
yeah, it's not, it's probably a blessing and challenging, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
So that's what it's going to be like. Yeah, and that's a way to conceptualize detriment. You know, and because we have both Mars and Venus in detriment right now. So it's not that we can't be effective, it's just that we're working with different tools.
Mhm.
Like Venus and Scorpio can definitely play those games of, oh, it doesn't feel like you love me enough, so I'm going to cut you off and see if you chase me.
Mhm.
it's not even necessarily consciously trying to play a game like that. It's just like, all or nothing. And so these planets can be very powerful in these signs. It's just that they're not in their comfort zone right now.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think that overall, I think that that just kind of speaks to some of the discomfort some of us might be experiencing socially at this point. Especially, I think like dating is probably really challenging during this time, and both our relationship planets being in the sign of their detriment, it's probably going to reflect a little bit of that as we enter into a new season.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Good to know.
yeah, without getting into specifics of everything, but I
Yeah.
think you guys all know where I'm headed. Okay, so also on the 14th, we have the sun opposite Neptune. We're going to be feeling this aspect build because the sun opposite Neptune is also going to be very present in the full moon chart, which is 6 days later on the 20th. But for right now, we're starting to experience, we have the first exact opposition, well, the only exact opposition from the sun to Neptune. So sun in Virgo, Neptune in Pisces, we're highlighting the Virgo Pisces axis, which we already kind of discussed at the beginning of the month when we had Mars opposite Neptune. So
Mm-hmm.
this idea of Neptune being magic, the dream, the, the connection to other realms. Neptune quite literally corresponds with dreams. It corresponds with other dimensions. It's the tendency to idealize, and it's about like, because the sun in Virgo is a little bit of like a perfectionist, like we want things to be perfect. So in this opposition with Neptune, which is further going to idealize and entice and enchant, there is a caution with this opposition to not get swept away with what could be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that this kind of can relate to some of the Chiron aspects right now of healing. I know for me personally, like it's hard to divorce the idea of healing, like of what was, like to heal something to the point of what it was before the
Mm-hmm.
break happened, versus what healing looks like when you can't go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this idea of idealization that is happening. Like we want it to be perfect. We want the panorama to disappear. We want to have all of our boxes checked. We want we want the world to be free of suffering. We want with a bunch of planets in Libra, we want there to be equality. And it's just on the other side of that desire for perfection, for utopia, is this sense of divine discontent that can happen when we have the sun in Virgo opposite Neptune in Pisces, is this idea of like, oh, it is so hard to bear. It's so hard to withstand all the suffering, all the injustice, all the heaviness. Like it's really hard to sit with, and we just crave for it to be alleviated. So um the other on the other side of that is the desire to pray, the desire to connect with spirit, the desire to imagine, to meditate, to visualize a better world, and to even allow ourselves our own little escape, um in order to, because we know that, like, I don't know, I struggle with this a lot of just being a sun square Neptune person myself, of just
Me
want,
too.
really.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's one of my most difficult aspects in my chart.
yeah, like you go through this sorrow and this empathy cycle, and then you just there's only so much you can do on your own, so then you have to like transcend it, and you have to like get a lift,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the sun opposite Neptune can inspire us to get a lift. So whether you're quite literally climbing a mountain and smoking a joint,
Mhm.
or if you are meditating and getting some higher level perspective on the situation through the breath, or yeah, or maybe it's just you just taking the day off and just being able to kind of check out. Like Neptune is also film and movies and music, so just being able to connect with the beauty of the human art form and being able to tap into those other modalities for transcendence.
Mhm.
Um, on a super basic level, Sun opposite Neptune can also just make us feel tired. We can also just feel groggy. We can just feel unfocused. Like we just don't have the energy to go to work today. Like we just, yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about it. Things go missing. We feel like we're in a fog.
Mhm.
Just can't wake up. It's just hard to wake up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Neptune. Neptune is different beast, huh?
Really? Well, so I have my sun square Neptune, and before I learned how to like work with that energy, I was definitely on the escapism route with a lot of substances, if you know what I mean.
For sure.
But once I realized that, I transmuted it to like connecting with spirit and spirituality and yeah.
Yeah, or to use yeah, because I'm a Sun square Neptune person too. So I was for sure there with you. I still enjoy substances. I just use them much more conscientiously now.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I heard well I like researched this aspect and I know a lot of musicians have that aspect too.
So many.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know so many astrologers that have it as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, like
Cool.
Neptune aspects want to connect us to the divine, want to connect us with something beyond us.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, and it's incredibly empathetic and heart opening too. So yeah, we'll all be feeling that heart swelling energy around the middle of the month.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Well,
we live with it every day.
yeah.
So on the 16th, then the sun is then going to make a trine to Neptune. So for this, I'm thinking about healing. Pluto is healing. The sun now toward the end of Virgo. Um, Maybe Virgo can sometimes emphasize things that we're anxious about, or things that we're like really worried about, or things that we just want to fix. I'm thinking that this aspect can manifest as a commitment to our growth, as healing in an embodied way. Virgo is also a service oriented sign. So service is a way to get out of our own head and make a difference somehow. Or thinking about our process of whatever our Virgo process has been as some sort of illumination tool with Pluto. So there could be some kind of important reveal happening here. The sun wants to reveal things, and Pluto is an uprooting. So we're shining a light on something previously unseen that's related to our Virgo process.
Mhm.
Then also on the 16th, we're going to start to see that Saturn Uranus square get activated, the
Mhm.
one that we were talking about before. So now Venus is in Scorpio, Venus is going to square Saturn today on the 16th. And it will eventually go on to, oppose Uranus on the 23rd. So we're going to start seeing Venus now activate Saturn-Uranus square. This is going to lay the foundation, because as all these other planets move through Libra and then enter Scorpio, they too will be activating this Saturn-Uranus square. So Venus is kind of the first in this little section. But on a personal level, Venus, because Saturn is more personal, Venus in a square to Saturn, that is going to continue the relationship themes here. It's Venus square Saturn is asking us to level up in our relationship somehow. Saturn makes things crystal clear. We know what the issue is. We know what's in our way. We know what's creating a little bit of dissatisfaction or disharmony. Venus square Saturn says we need to have a conversation about this. We need to talk about this. The only challenge here is that Venus is in Scorpio. She doesn't want to necessarily talk about it. Like, we're going to insinuate, we're going to say it without saying it, and hope that the other person really notices, or Venus is going to just cut to it. Here's the issue. The other kind of tension that we might experience, because squares are tension, squares are all about growth and action though as well. But seeing Venus in this very enmeshed psychic tantric placement in the sign of Scorpio, craving intimacy, craving closeness, craving reassurance, craving physical touch, and Saturn is in Aquarius. Saturn is icy. Saturn wants distance. Saturn wants to be alone with their thoughts. It's Aquarius, so we want to know that you're there. We want to know that you're there, but don't suffocate me. So we might see a little bit of that dynamic going on, with like one person craving closeness and one person being not as available for whatever reason. And so needing to work through that a little bit. So as I mentioned, the squares are a hurdle, but it can also be created into a stepping stone. It's a time to have like a very truthy conversation. We need to talk about this. Also, Venus Saturn aspects might highlight an opportunity to define the relationship. So for those of you who are in a situationship, this might be a time to get really clear on what are we? What is the structure? What is our relationship? What is the expectation? Because Venus in Scorpio really wants to make sure she can trust the other person, really wants to make sure that she can rely on the other person. So that's a little bit about the Venus square Saturn. Yeah. So it's like, is this something that we can work through, or is it not? So very often those conversations will arise, but it can be very constructive though. Saturn and Aquarius, these are both fixed signs. They want to work it out. So there's a commitment to endurance here.
Cool.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
My Venus is in Aquarius. That's why I was laughing, because I've been known to ice people out.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't have to be all that serious, does it?
Yeah. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, we can just keep it cool, and yeah, it doesn't have to be that serious, right? I love Venus in Aquarius.
Really?
Yeah, so friendly and easy to get along with, easy to talk to.
In the beginning of our talk before we hit record, I told you a lot of astrologers, I guess, who don't look at astrology like intuitively as other astrologers. They basically looked at my chart and said, "You're going to have a really hard time with relationships." And I think I claimed that and like made that truth because of my moon and Venus in Aquarius. And I, over time, had to realize they're just kind of what you were saying about Venus and Scorpio. It's just a different expression of these planets that aren't necessarily for everybody.
For sure. And every relationship has its own personality.
Mhm.
And sometimes, you might be attracted to people who crave more closeness, and it's that contrast that is attractive and
Mhm.
compelling. And at the same time, you might find that you're attracted to maybe more fire energy that's more just like, I want to say hit it and quit it. You know what I mean? But not like necessarily in that way. But it's like, let's get to the, I mean, it could be, but it's like, let's get to the point and then like, let's chill,
Yeah.
let's, like it doesn't have to be this intense, like
Mhm.
fixed eye gaze the entire time,
Yeah,
you know?
I get it. Like Cancer, like let's talk about our feelings. Like I'm like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Venus in Aquarius is and Aquarius placements in general too are really good for they can be like quote unquote icy, but also they are really great at breaking the ice.
Mhm.
Really great at breaking the ice. And there's also a really beautiful loyalty that Venus in Aquarius has, where it's like, I'm
Yeah.
always here for you, I'm always
Mhm.
thinking of you,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have to be complex and serious and dramatic.
Yes. Beautiful scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love Aquarius. I love Aquarius placements. Um, Very misunderstood, but very, very I love them. My husband's an Aquarius, so
Oh, yay!
yeah.
We're having so much Aquarius activation this year, I feel. We have a full moon on Sunday in Aquarius.
Yeah, we have two Aquarius full moons. We've got Saturn, we've got Jupiter in Aquarius.
Mhm.
It's an Aquarius party.
It is. We digress.
Well, speaking of full moons,
Mhm.
the next one on my list here is a full moon. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
as we're recording, we're preparing for this next Aquarius full moon. But here on September 20th, we have the full moon in Pisces. This
Mhm.
is going to be happening at 28 degrees of Pisces and 13 minutes. And as I mentioned or alluded to before, this full moon is really going to activate the Sun Neptune configuration. So this full moon is going to be um, conjunct with Neptune. So let me actually pull up that chart. So that is going to be on, because I want to just see how close it is. Yeah, so it's really close. It's within 6 degrees of Neptune.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're definitely going to be feeling that Neptune energy. So everything that I mentioned with the sun opposite Neptune, the elevated compassion, the
Mhm.
desire to alleviate suffering, the desire to seek magic, to transcend, to teleport somewhere away from all this, to just press a button and make all the problems go away. That is the desire. That is the desire of this full moon, especially because full moons really um call the waters forth. They really elevate our waters. We know that full moons are emotional periods. They are times of high activity. So this just being a water full moon in and of itself, it's going to be very emotional.
Mhm.
These might be like tears of joy, even just being in a Jupiter ruled sign. This could be some sort of celebration, really calling in the themes of gratitude into this full moon. So like, despite all of the things that we wish we could alleviate, there's also this immense gratitude for what is. And I think it's really that contrast between pain and beauty that really creates that sense of gratitude for the good times. And so this full moon in Pisces is going to be maybe celebratory. It could also be, yeah, just want like happy tears, like gratitude. And it could be really otherworldly, like dreams are going to be wild, imagination wild, music, art, all of those things are going to just speak to us a lot more. The desire for connection.
Mhm.
If you're someone who, we've been talking a little bit about vulnerability. Um, if you're someone who's been craving a little bit more vulnerability, a little bit more connection with other people or with the world at large, this full moon conjunct Neptune is going to allow, it's going to be like a portal to connection. It's going to open us up to connect with others in a more soul level or more profound or just like raw emotional, or connecting on a shared dream or shared vision of some kind. Um, this full moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, it's very much heart swelling. There's a ton of compassion. Also, magic, enchantment, romance, these things are available to us. Also, hope. Hope is a really big one. So we've had Jupiter tiptoed into Pisces and has since retrograded back into Aquarius. So we got just like a little sneak preview of it, but I really think that Jupiter in Pisces, even though it's back in Aquarius right now, it's still set, in motion this desire, I think, for all of us. And I think it is timely. I think it is also as a result of the pandemic, but just thinking about how we can live a life of more meaning, how we can live a more aligned life, more aligned with our soul, more aligned with our purpose, and more aligned with each other, something more meaningful. And so I think that this full moon will highlight that for us.
Mm. That's so beautiful. You said this is gonna make you like happy cry, and I feel like I'm doing that now,
Oh,
but in a very Aries way, like inside.
yes. Yes.
It's so
Yeah, I'm
beautiful.
looking forward to it. Like, make sure to have the playlist. Make sure to have the Spotify playlist on point.
Yeah.
Um, because again, we're going to be wanting to get a lift. This contrast between earthly, meticulous Virgo that wants to fix and plan and control. And it's like if I cultivate my skills, if I cultivate myself and I work on myself every day, then I'll be able to have the life I want. It's that idea, but then also contrasted with everything happening in Pisces, it's like also just trust the process. Also trust the current of where life is taking you,
Mhm.
and allow, like, it's that balance between the two.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, this full moon is ruled by Jupiter. So maybe there's something like we have faith in our effort, like also speaking to like Virgo season, like having faith in our efforts, um, having faith in our joint efforts, the things that we're co-creating, the things that we're collaborating on.
Mhm.
Because I think I'm not alone in feeling like a lot of the issues that worry me right now are just so big. They're just like bigger than myself. And so I think that this full moon might really remind us that like we're not meant to carry the weight of the world on our own.
Mhm.
We are doing this together.
I have a question, um, teacher.
Yes.
So this coming full moon on Sunday is a full moon in Aquarius with the sun or the moon. I forget which one. Oh my God. This moon is conjunct Jupiter.
Jupiter.
And then a month from now, when it's the full moon in Pisces, the same thing with Jupiter, you said. Or is
So
it Neptune?
so yeah, it's conjunct
Oh,
Neptune,
got it.
but then it's ruled by Jupiter.
Right. Okay. So is it kind of the same energy that we're going to get?
Similar, yeah. I mean, the Aquarius full moon is going to be a lot different because it's highlighting the Leo Aquarius axis,
Mhm.
but each of them being conjunct Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter and Neptune both strive to open
Mhm.
and to seek something bigger than the self.
Yeah. So I'm getting this feeling that this full moon in Aquarius that everyone will probably go through after, by when this goes live, it'll be in the past. It's like an opening to something, and then a month from now, it's another opening, another chance at. I'm just trying to insert some hope in the collective.
Yeah, so I think that, yeah, and Jupiter is all about hope. Jupiter is all about hope. And I think that's why we had two Aquarius full moons and getting a lot of emphasis on this Jupiter in Aquarius as the ruler of Pisces. Um, it's this repeated emphasis on the collective effort.
Hmm.
It's this repeated emphasis on not me, us. It's this repeated emphasis on Aquarius, the togetherness.
Hmm.
And from the Leo Aquarius axis, it's like moving away from hyper individualism. And a lot of people want to talk about the age of Aquarius. There's so many Aquarius activations happening right now, and it's about coming together. We have to come together as a planet right now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I am hopeful that this Uranus and Taurus is waking us up, and everyone needs to.
Mhm.
So yeah, there is a big emphasis on the hope of being able to work together and being able to carry one another as well.
Mhm. Got it.
Yeah. So let's see here. The full moon. Okay, so the full moon is ruled by Jupiter in Aquarius, as I mentioned. Well, now Mercury is going to come into a trine with Jupiter. So that's already happening. That's starting to happen here. That's happening actually on the same day. And that's an interesting one to pay attention to also, the Mercury trine Jupiter, because as I've alluded to, Mercury is going to station retrograde on the 27th, so a week from the full moon. Mercury is going to station retrograde, and it will again trine Jupiter. So Mercury trine Jupiter for this first time, again, Mercury is in Libra, it's an air sign, is trying to brainstorm, is trying to come up with ideas. Jupiter is in Aquarius. I like to think of this as the think tank. I like to think of Aquarius as a think tank.
Mhm.
Like, have you ever been in one of those escape rooms, Laura?
I have not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They have them here in Cleveland. And it's like you go in the room and everyone has to put their heads together and solve the puzzles
Mhm.
so that you can get out in time. And I think of Aquarius as like a think tank, like it's fixed air, like we're kind of in this think tank and we have to crack the code, we have to solve the equation. And so I think that Mercury coming into this trine with Jupiter is really beautiful for brainstorming,
Mhm.
offering fresh perspectives, being able to learn from one another, and being able to just like brainstorm for whatever reason, whether it's creatively or socially or whatever it might be. It's a brainstorm aspect. It's like, I never thought of it from that way. Like if Mercury is the way that we think and the way that we process, the way that we understand, Jupiter is offering this enlarged perspective
Mhm.
and this hope and this optimism.
Yeah.
It's also grounded though, because it's in Aquarius. So it's like grounded optimism.
Mhm.
Um,
I
here's the
forget.
silver lining.
I'm sorry. I forgot what video or what aspect it was, but I loved your explanation of, I think it had to do with Mercury and Jupiter, of like if you are expanded in your mind and it's okay to change your mind. Like it's okay to see something differently and learn something new, and almost not like in from an ego way, just say I changed my mind. I forgot what aspect that was, but I feel like this is an opportunity, right, to go into retrograde.
Yeah, I think that I've been saying that a lot, like in reference to the nodal axis, like with the North Node and aspects like activating the nodal axis, but also I think just with Jupiter and Aquarius being activated, like it is okay to change our mind.
Yeah.
Like we have new information. We're always being presented with new information, and Aquarius being like a fixed air sign, it's so easy to get into like this is the way it is, and then but yeah, it's we're always allowed to change our mind. And I think like it's easy to, yeah, get attached to a perspective and have a certain degree of pride that kind of goes with that, like with that intelligence, that sense of intelligence. But yeah, we're always free to change our mind. And so yeah, that's a really good point, Laura. Like this Mercury trine Jupiter that we're going to be working with throughout Mercury's retrograde, it's an opportunity to integrate new information, especially when it comes back in October,
Hmm.
retrograde.
Hmm.
So, wow, that's really cool. So, yeah, the next big thing is going to be the sun's ingress into Libra. So now the sun is entering the sign of Libra. So now we have another planet, well, not in detriment, but in its fall.
Hmm.
So yeah, um, not as great as when we have the planets in domicile, but nevertheless, sun in Libra is still a good time. Means we're getting into the fall season. The sun is considered to be in its fall in Libra because we are diminishing in sunlight. Like it's this quadrant of the zodiac, it's this quadrant of the seasonal year in the northern hemisphere where we have the least amount of light and we're actually diminishing in light. So we're not gaining it like we are after the winter solstice. So we're entering into the fall, we're entering into like Halloween, like
Hmm.
Samhain, Samhain.
The best
Um,
part of the year.
exactly, exactly. It's like it's weird. Like I never actually feel more alive than
Me
when everything is
neither.
dying.
I feel like because we're witches, like it calls back our darkness.
It does. I love that thinning veil. I love
Me
it.
too.
Love it so much. So Libra season is your cue. Like get ready to get some pumpkins.
Mm. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, so the sun enters Libra. We can think about more relationship themes that Libra brings in. This is an equal balance. This is the equinox. We have an equal balance of daylight and sunlight on the planet, or I'm sorry, daylight and starlight on the planet, everywhere on the planet at this time. So the sun's ingress is on the 22nd, and that is going to be um, the the autumnal equinox.
Mhm.
So we can look forward to that. On that same day, Mercury is going to square Pluto. So this is really good. This is going to be another one that comes up during Mercury's retrograde. This is a really good one for deep diving, for research, for looking into the past. Mercury in aspect of Pluto can be a little bit more psychological. We're looking for nuance. We're looking for the things that are hidden, the things that are not necessarily spoken literally. We're looking to read between the lines. We're looking for context. We're looking for meaning. And yeah, we're doing the deep dive. This is a really beautiful aspect for any sort of shadow work, for journaling, like writing, any kind of like excavation. So research, just deep diving, trying to because Mercury is the magician too. Mercury works in symbols. And so working with the unseen with Pluto, there's a lot of opportunity here for us to uncover patterns
Mm,
and subtext.
cool.
Moving on to the 23rd, we have Venus opposite Uranus. So again, Venus activating the Saturn-Uranus square. That's when this aspect gets activated, things go a little wild in the world, little wild on the world stage. The Saturn-Uranus cycle primarily highlighting, as I mentioned before, like changes to the social and the social and political and economic infrastructures in the world. And I think that this aspect is so timely, and I think we're going to get a lot more out of this aspect coming out of a pandemic, which has shifted the way that we think about everything, about how we work, about how we socialize, about how we live lives of meaning. And so the collective framework is totally getting rattled. I think we're going to get a lot more out of this Saturn-Uranus square than we otherwise would. So lots of changes are happening, lots of changes are underway. And so we may see some developments there, especially like on the fair wages front and everything like that. But for us personally, Venus opposite Uranus is an opportunity to have more breakthroughs and to break the routine in our relationships, to try something new. It could be temporary. Maybe we just, we blow off our family and we go do something else. I don't know. I'm just saying that because we normally see our family on the weekends. But you break the routine. Venus opposite Uranus wants to break the routine, and being in fixed signs, that's a little bit harder to do. There might be a little bit more resistance there. But it's an invitation to break the routine and to see what else is out there and to make some discoveries. It could also be an aspect to create space and possibility in our relationships. So especially for the fixed signs, especially for people who have a lot of planets in fixed signs, you might feel this in a big way. This is an opportunity to create more space and expansion and possibility in your relationships. Uranus is here to show you a new way that you didn't consider, or maybe you need to try something new. Maybe you need a little bit more freedom. Maybe you need a little bit of space to tend to your own inner process on some level. If there is like a lot of tension in a relationship, Venus Uranus, that could be a time when you have the talk. Like, of, are we going to part ways, or can we change? Venus opposite Uranus can bring incredible breakthroughs. It's all about freedom. It's all about sovereignty. It's all about radical liberation of the self within the framework of a relationship.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it could also just be, we're going to do something different today. We're going to try something different that we wouldn't otherwise do.
Yes.
We just need to feel like we're really living today.
I like
so
that.
It doesn't have to be all that serious, but it can be. So moving on to September 25th, we get a Mars trine Saturn. This feels incredibly productive to me. This feels like a lot of focus. We're using our time wisely. We're not worrying about the non-essentials. We're really just here to focus. This will be a really great day for projects, for getting things done, for tending to the to-do list, for getting big projects off the ground, or just putting in the time for them. So that will be good. I don't know, what day of the week is that? Let me see. September 25th. Oh, that's a weekend. That's a Saturday. So you're going to be doing some projects. Look at where Mars and Saturn are in your chart. Look at your Libra and Aquarius house, and that's where you might be doing a significant project.
Cool.
I feel like that's construction, that's building, that's creating, that's materializing something. Finalizing the blueprint. So the next big thing, which we've been alluding to this entire time, is Mercury finally stations retrograde on September 27th. And yeah, Mercury is still going to be in this square to Pluto. And Yeah, so that should be interesting. So this Mercury square Pluto is going to be a theme. It's going to kind of set the tone of the retrograde. Again, we have Mercury retrograde in Libra. The interesting thing to think about, and I always want to share this about Mercury retrogrades, because a lot of people fear the retrograde. We don't need to fear the retrograde. The retrograde is here to help us integrate, to help us reorient, to help us reframe, rethink, review,
Mhm.
reflect. We'll be doing a lot of reflection with Mercury square Pluto. And there's like an obsessive quality with Pluto where it's like, I really want to figure this out. And sometimes when we get in that tunnel vision mode, we are ignoring other important angles. And so Mercury in a square to Pluto, taking a step back, it's like, okay, this is an opportunity for us to integrate other perspectives and information into whatever it is that we're trying to crack here. So yeah, this will be a very introspective, reflective, excellent, again, excellent for shadow work, excellent for healing, excellent for research, that kind of thing for Mercury square Pluto.
I like it.
Yeah, or like we were talking about being like in the obsessive phase of astrology. If you're like
Yeah.
obsessed, whatever it is you're reading, this Mercury retrograde will be good for like the deep dive.
Mhm. I like Mercury retrogrades personally.
I do too.
I am a freak.
Yeah, I like them. I mean, some are better than others, I will admit, but
Last year was rough. The water ones, I was like, stop it. But the air ones, I feel like they're invitations for us to like calm our minds down. You know, the last one was I think in Gemini. It was in Gemini, right? And it
Mhm.
was like a nice chance to like calm our minds and our nervous systems.
Practice the pause.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, and as you mentioned, Laura, like last year they were all in water. So one of my teachers, mentors, colleagues, Gary Caton, he wrote a book called The Elemental Year. It's all about Mercury and invest and like a deeper dive into Mercury's cycle. And he has highlighted that like there, he calls it the elemental year, where every year Mercury is retrograding in the same element.
Mhm.
And that's important because we think about, in that sense, Mercury is then spending half of the year in one element.
Yes.
So Mercury is spending half of the year, 6 months out of the year, in all of our air houses, all the air signs. So we get like 2 whole months in Gemini, 2 whole months in Libra, and 2 whole months in Aquarius. So that was at the beginning of the year. We had that. So yeah, look at your air trifecta in your chart, and those are the areas that we are doing a lot of renovations and rethinking, spending a lot of extra time, because conversely, Mercury is speeding through those other places of our chart. So the Mercury retrograde is actually a helpful period for Mercury to spend more time helping us to plan and reorient itself with that part of our chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year was it was rough because I think we were all grieving and we were all just processing our emotions for the first time. At least that's what I was doing.
For sure. Yeah. And so like the water retrogrades were really bringing that up.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now we're in air and we're doing the brainstorm.
Hmm.
We're nerding out on books too.
Doing a lot. I want to be mindful of your time. Are there any other days and aspects you wanted to mention before we close?
For sure. Yeah, we're almost done here. At the end of the month on September 29th and September 30th, Venus is going to trine Neptune and square Jupiter. So as we were mentioning before, like with the full moons, Neptune and Jupiter have a similar aim. They want to open, they want us to expand, they want us to connect. And so, yeah, at the end of the month, it's so cool because once that sun enters Libra, it's like Venus, Venus, Venus till the end of it, through the end of September. So yeah, at the end of September, we just have Venus trine Neptune, which is extremely artistic. It's compassionate, wants to connect. It wants to connect on a soul level and connect through music, connect through arts. And yeah, Venus square to Jupiter, that can be a little indulgent. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. You deserve it.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. That sounds like a nice ending to September.
Oh yeah, I know. We had some intense aspects we talked about, didn't we?
A little bit. I was gonna ask, is September like, I know there's no good or bad in energy, but is it gonna be nice to us?
Yeah, I mean, Virgo season is all about improvement. And so in order to improve something, we have to have both that critical eye for detail, in order to elevate things in the way that we desire. And I think that Neptune, while it may create a little bit of confusion, while it may create a little bit of overwhelm, while it may be just incredibly heart swelling, it's also here to help us integrate that vision
Mhm.
of possibility, of magic, of whatever your version of utopia is. So yeah, we're doing the heavy lifting in September. So I'm glad that you invited me on to talk about September, because I know it's a more challenging um month, I feel, but not like aggressively.
Yeah, not like the
Yeah.
beginning of this year.
No.
We were like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah, it's nothing like 2020, put it
Okay.
that way.
Well, if anybody wants to work with you, you have an 11-week, I think, course on, well, I'll let you talk about it.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, so I'm going to be launching, it's going to be the third rendition of this course. It's titled Timing with Transit. So it's all about learning how to work with astrology as a forecasting tool. It's an 11-week mentorship and it begins on September 8th. So Virgo season, it's all about, back to school,
Mhm.
honing our craft. So if you're looking to hone your astrological craft with me, I do recommend that you have a foundational understanding of astrology, because of course transits, they work with the birth chart, so we have to understand the birth chart first. But if you are called to be supported in your astrological journey, you want to start integrating with the timing of the transits. And we're also going to cover perfections, and we're also going to cover eclipses. So if you're interested to learn how to work with those, I'd love for you to join us. And like I said, that begins on September 8th. You can find out more details about that on my website, which is catherineurban.com. That's Catherine with a C, Urban with a U. And yeah, and I'm also, as we mentioned, I'm pretty active on YouTube. I'm active on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find me at Astro Catherine.
And you offer readings and other, things.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I offer readings. You can check out those offerings on my website, and yeah, I offer synastry, chart rectification.
Yes,
Whole,
chart rectification. If you don't know your birth time, Catherine can use her expertise to help you with that. But I also want to say that Catherine's YouTube channel, I watch it every day. Sometimes you even post twice a day on the specific transit that's going on in the day, and it's so helpful. And I'm like, oh, that's why I yelled at my friend. Sometimes I don't watch it in time, but I'm like, oh, I should have done that first thing in the morning. But
yeah.
they're so helpful and they're so quick, and I find them to be amazing. So please check her out on YouTube. But this was so generous. I have like 3 pages of notes, and I just love the way you also came up with ways in which we can work with the transits and like options of how we can move through them, because again, it's energy, it's not good or bad, it's how we move through them. And you're just so generous with your time and your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come on to your podcast today, Laura. I had so much fun and it's been
Yeah.
amazing to connect with you. And I know our pre-show chat was really great. So I look forward to connecting with you more, hopefully in the future as well.
Yes, you're going to be back on. So go tend to your bebe and and we'll have you on real soon. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Laura.